The national media has always had a love-hate obsession with the Dallas Cowboys. Time and time again, we see analysts build entire narratives out of negativity, using America's team as a punching bag. And one figure who continues to stand out is none other than Ryan Clark. Clark has built a reputation for arrogance, the kind of analyst who talks as if his word is law, while taking shots at players and teams to stir the pot. Cowboys fans know this routine all too well. After seeing names like Emmanuel Acho and LaShawn "Shady" McCoy take their swings at Dallas, Clark has now stepped firmly into that same spotlight. Recently, he's found himself in hot water with ESPN after yet another heated debate centered around the Cowboys. And honestly, it feels like his time may finally be running out. The moment that really exposed him came during his criticism of how the Cowboys' offense used its stars. He tried to compare A.J. Brown, who had just one target in a game, to CeeDee Lamb, Dallas's #1 receiver. But instead of making a fair point, his comments came across as forced, self-righteous, and, frankly, out of touch with what actually happened on the field. For fans, this isn't just about Ryan Clark being wrong on a take. It's about the endless cycle of media voices using the Cowboys to push controversy. And at some point, you have to wonder, is this really analysis, or just another desperate attempt to stay relevant? To set the stage, the debate was simple: who had the better performance, CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown? Analyst Peter Schrager laid it out clearly. The answer was obvious: CeeDee Lamb. Even with a few drops, Lamb's overall production and impact on the game far outshined A.J. Brown's night. Because let's be real, A.J. Brown was locked down. For nearly the entire game, the defense put him in a box. Outside of a late 8-yard catch near the end, he was completely neutralized. That was his one moment to breathe, but it didn't change the story of his night. If you're Brown, you can't walk away from that game pretending it was some kind of strong performance. You just can't. If he put together 10 games like that, he wouldn't even crack 100 yards for the season. That's how ineffective it was. And yet, here we are, with people acting like that one catch somehow flipped the narrative. It didn't. It wasn't special, it wasn't game-changing, it was a single play at the end of a frustrating night. Cowboys fans know the truth: CeeDee Lamb was the difference maker, and A.J. Brown never got going. That late catch by A.J. Brown? Let's be honest, it was nothing special. Just a routine route, not some highlight reel moment people should overhype. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb was clearly the more impactful receiver, and that's the real story of the game. But here's where Ryan Clark tried to shift the argument. Instead of addressing Lamb versus Brown directly, he fell back on the oldest, weakest line in the book: well, A.J. Brown's team is 1-0. Come on. That's not analysis, that's avoidance. Because deep down, Clark knows the truth: the Eagles didn't walk out of that game feeling dominant. They walked out knowing they barely escaped, that they should have played better, and that A.J. Brown was shut down. Using "the team won" as your defense for an individual performance is the clearest sign you've lost the debate. It's a way of dodging the actual question. Fans can see right through that. And this is what frustrates people with Ryan Clark. Instead of sticking to football and breaking down the game, he leans into hollow takes. It's the kind of TV moment that does nothing for fans who want real insight into what happened on the field. This is where Ryan Clark really crossed the line. On live television, he looked at Peter Schrager and essentially dismissed his perspective by saying, "That's the non-player in you." Think about how disrespectful that is. Just because someone didn't play in the NFL doesn't mean their opinion holds no weight. Journalists, analysts, and fans alike can study the game, break down film, and provide valuable insight. To belittle someone's knowledge simply because they weren't a professional player? That's wrong. Football is bigger than just the guys who suited up on Sundays. Countless people contribute to this game, from coaches to scouts to analysts, and yes, even media voices who never played at the pro level. To act like their voices don't matter is arrogant and dismissive. And you could see it all in Clark's body language, the tone, the frustration, the condescension. Instead of engaging in a real debate, he tried to shut Schrager down. That's not healthy discussion. That's not real analysis. And it's definitely not what fans tune in to see. For many, this moment said more about Ryan Clark than about CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown. It revealed an attitude that disrespects the broader football community, and that's why so many people walked away frustrated with his take. That clip was the turning point. Ryan Clark put himself in hot water by trying to argue that A.J. Brown, who had just one catch for 8 yards, somehow had a better game than CeeDee Lamb, who put up over 100 receiving yards. Come on. No matter who you are, no matter what level you played at, you can't make that argument with a straight face. Production matters. Impact matters. And in this case, Lamb was clearly the more dominant receiver. And this is where the whole, "I played the game, so my opinion means more" argument falls apart. Playing experience doesn't automatically make your analysis right. What matters is whether you can break down the film, understand the schemes, recognize formations, and explain the intricacies of the game to the audience. That knowledge can come from players, coaches, scouts, analysts, even journalists who have never taken a snap at the professional level. The game belongs to more than just the former players. What Clark displayed in that moment wasn't expertise, it was gatekeeping. Instead of leaning on the facts of the game, he leaned on status, as if credentials alone give someone the right to dismiss another perspective. That kind of entitlement doesn't elevate the conversation. It shuts it down. And that's exactly what fans are tired of seeing. For years, ESPN has leaned heavily on former players to fill analyst roles. Some have been great, but others have relied more on their playing resume than on providing real, unbiased insight. That's why we've seen a shift recently, networks bringing in more true media professionals, people who can deliver balanced analysis without leaning on old loyalties or built-in biases. Because here's the problem, too often, ex-players turn their platforms into a clubhouse. Their breakdowns are colored by favoritism toward current players or former teammates. Instead of calling it like it is, they twist the narrative to protect the guys on the field. And fans notice that. Ryan Clark's debate with Peter Schrager was a perfect example of this. He dismissed fair criticism, defended A.J. Brown's weak performance, and then tried to lean on his player background as if that made him untouchable. That doesn't fly anymore. And here's where it gets interesting. After all the backlash, Clark actually found himself in hot water with ESPN. To make matters worse, he tried to sneak in an apology, not on camera, not in a meaningful way, but casually on social media during a busy football weekend. Almost like he hoped no one would notice. That quick, half-hearted tweet said everything fans already felt: Clark wasn't really sorry. He was just trying to quiet the noise. And here's the thing, Clark didn't even issue a real apology. He threw it up on Twitter, sandwiched between other posts, almost as if he wanted to bury it. A quick, half-hearted sorry that he immediately tried to cover with more tweets. That's not accountability. That's damage control. According to reports, this wasn't the first time either. Clark has already been forced into multiple public apologies this year, and insiders say he could be on thin ice at ESPN. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise anyone. Because for Cowboys fans, this isn't about one bad debate. Ryan Clark has been one of the loudest voices pushing negative narratives against Dallas for years. He hyped up false trade rumors about Micah Parsons. He openly sided with David Mulugheta, trying to shape the conversation away from the truth. He downplayed Trayvon Diggs' best season, just to prop up Jalen Ramsey. Week after week, he finds ways to discredit or downplay the Cowboys while lifting up other teams or players. So when he backtracked after the Eagles game, let's be real, it wasn't because he suddenly respected Dallas. It was because he had to. If he didn't, the take would have looked ridiculous. At this point, Ryan Clark isn't just an analyst. He's ESPN's worldwide leader in apologies. And Cowboys fans are tired of it. The drama didn't stop on air. According to reports, the heated exchange between Ryan Clark and Peter Schrager spilled off the set of Get Up, turning into an even more uncomfortable confrontation behind the scenes. Some sources even said Clark looked ready to take things further, and while ESPN hasn't announced any consequences yet, this incident might not be over. What we do know is that Clark was forced into yet another apology. During the Chiefs-Chargers game later that night, he took to social media and issued a public statement directed at Schrager. In it, he admitted he regretted their interaction both on and off camera, apologized to Schrager directly, and promised to focus on professionalism moving forward. But here's the problem: this wasn't Clark's first apology. It was his second since May. 2 public walkbacks in just a few months. That's not just bad luck, that's a pattern. And while Schrager handled the moment with class, fans couldn't ignore what they saw: Clark crossing the line, belittling a respected journalist, and then scrambling to patch things up once the backlash hit. For a network built on debate and discussion, there's a difference between strong opinions and disrespect. Ryan Clark blurred that line, and now his future at ESPN feels shakier than ever. At this point, it feels like Ryan Clark has worn out his welcome. When former players step into analyst roles, some thrive by bringing energy and entertainment, guys like Michael Irvin, who know how to fire up a crowd. But others, like Clark, take themselves so seriously that they start rewriting history, twisting narratives, and bending the truth to fit their own agenda. And that's the real issue. Instead of elevating the conversation, Clark has become one of the biggest offenders when it comes to spinning stories and disrespecting colleagues. What he did to Peter Schrager wasn't just unprofessional, it was despicable. For a network like ESPN, that crosses the line. Fans tune in for passion, debate, and real football insight, not arrogance, dismissiveness, and constant apologies. At some point, you have to ask, is Ryan Clark really helping the conversation, or is he dragging it down? Ironically, the same media voices that often come after the Cowboys are now going after Clark himself. He's feeling the same pressure he used to put on others. And honestly, maybe it's time ESPN takes a hard look at whether he should still be on air. And here's the bottom line: Ryan Clark crossed a line that every analyst should avoid. When you dismiss the opinions of journalists, analysts, or fans simply because they didn't play in the NFL, you alienate the majority of the football community. Yes, playing the game gives you a unique perspective. No one's denying that. But knowledge doesn't only come from being on the field. Anyone who studies the sport, breaks down the film, and invests the time can understand the game on a high level. That's why voices like Peter Schrager matter. He's an accredited NFL journalist who has put in the work, earned respect, and built credibility. To discredit him just because he never wore pads on Sundays is not only arrogant, it's flat out wrong. Football isn't rocket science. You don't need an engineering degree to understand coverages, schemes, or matchups. If you do the work, you can learn. And countless fans, journalists, and analysts have proven that. That's why Ryan Clark's attitude has rubbed so many the wrong way. Instead of elevating the conversation, he's belittling it. Instead of respecting different perspectives, he's shutting them out. And at the end of the day, fans deserve better. And look, sometimes we've got to step outside the X's and O's and call things how they are. Not everything has to be about breaking down plays, sometimes it's about holding people accountable when they step out of line. At the end of the day, fans want honesty. They want passion. And that's exactly what we'll keep bringing. So tell me what you think: did Ryan Clark go too far? Should ESPN step in? Or do you think this all blows over? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started.